Cool. All right. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rizq podcast. This is episode 22. And for me, this is a huge episode. You guys should thank me. You guys should give me lots and lots of praise. And if you have any donations, I'll take that as well, because this episode is going to be very special. Today's episode, we've got Saad Wadia of Avalon Sports Management. And just to give you a bit of an introduction to Saad and why I've actually asked Saad, or I should say why I've hounded Saad for the last like 5 or 6 months to try and get this interview done, because Avalon Sports Management, and correct me if I'm wrong here, or if I make any mistakes, I'm sure I'm going to miss some stuff out here, but Avalon Sports Management are in essence a athlete management company. There's other branches of Avalon. So, for example, fashion and artist management and all these other types of things, which we're going to get into. But I think the main thing that that kind of drew me to yourself, Saad, was what you're doing in the footballing world. And just to add a bit of masala to this for you guys at the very beginning, Saad has a client roster which is very enviable. So he works with the likes of Ian Rush, who is the greatest Liverpool striker of history of our club. And he was actually the reason, Saad, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but Ian Rush was the reason that I actually started following Liverpool. So so for me to see that, it's a Muslim brother who's built an organization that is so respectable and reputable, that you've got the likes of Ian Rush as not just a client, but I think you've mentioned on your post that he's more than a client, he's a friend, he's a mentor. And I think that's just so cool, man. So yeah, man, let's get into this, because like me introducing you is not going to do justice to you more than what you can say yourself. So first of all, how are you doing, bro? How's everything been over 2020 for you guys?
No, Jazakallah. By the way, that's probably one of the longest intros I've ever had. Usually you did it like, oh, Saad, just, straight up. So I appreciate the love, bro. And then I think we actually got in touch about 6 months ago, where, we started talking, and then we were supposed to meet up, and then we got caught up again. And then we were supposed to meet up before the first lockdown, I think it was. So I'm glad, alhamdulillah, we found a way to kind of somehow get this started. So no, I think the last few months, I'm sure just like everyone, it's been a bit challenging, I would say, but everyone's kind of adjusting to the new norms, right? So, but it is what it is, kind of thing. And I'm not saying I've enjoyed it in terms of adjusting to whatever's out there, but it's just another challenge, right? And you just kind of crack on with it. But I think from a football point of view, it just hurts that I can't go to the stadiums. I remember driving up and down Liverpool, games there and back, and we haven't had that for a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because like you were going to the old training ground, Melwood. Obviously you were networking with all the players and meeting with them and all that type of stuff. And I guess for you, it's like, even forget about the personal side of things, that you're chilling with like Mo Salah and Mane and all these amazing world-class players. But from a business point of view, that network element has been taken from you as well, hasn't it?
From a business point of view, I think networking in person, I think I didn't actually think of that until towards the end of the year. I was like, hang on a sec. If I went, compared to what we were doing previously, you're physically out there meeting people, clients. LFC boardroom, for example, you've got clients coming there from anywhere around the world, right? Haven't had that for a while, and then you just kind of miss the interaction with people. And I think after the first lockdown, when it opened up again, we did something with TalkSport. We did a Premier League preview show, and we actually went over to the TalkSport studios in London. And I remember walking into the studios, I was like, oh, it's so good to meet people, It's
coming out of your cave after like 4 months.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool. So, like, I mean, obviously we touched a little bit about, Avalon and what you guys do, but like explain it to us. Like, what do you guys actually do at Avalon? Like, if you were to give us a kind of a big picture, a little detailed, but overall, what do you guys actually do at Avalon?
Yeah, so I mean, we basically set up a sports group, so it's a group of companies. One is talent management. So we basically manage an up and coming footballer right now. He's got a contract at Liverpool, 3 years, owing back. Um, I think it's probably the fourth one down from Robertson now into the starting 11. So alhamdulillah,
Wow.
we've had him since under 14, and he's kind of progressed. And then talent, we've also got a young golfer right now. He's only 19. We've also got an actor that we manage, PR, branding. But my main focus, obviously, is sports and football. So that'll be the talent management, just looking after the careers, everything, from the start to the finish. Now, obviously, Ian falls under that. Ian, obviously, he's done his career, but it's managing his wealth, brand, social media, everything. And then we've actually got a wealth management arm. So this is working with current Premier League footballers, who we don't manage, by the way, but we only solely look after their wealth and give them financial advice. And this, I think the last 3-4 months, we started working with a lot of the rappers in the UK as well. So I think sports and music is now kind of starting to cross paths. A lot of the young rappers, they need a lot of wealth advice, financial advice, simply because these are young people coming in with a lot of wealth and they haven't got a clue of how to go about it. So kind of just protecting the people falls into the same narrative of Avalon Sports is there to kind of just protect those within the industry and help bridge anyone outside of the industry to get in, and just kind of, and then the final bit is the commercial and branding, the bridge between the industry and all the brands we work outside. But yes, I think in a nutshell, I know it sounds like got a lot going on, but it is kind of streamlined into just a group of companies within sports entertainment sector.
Awesome. Like one of the things that you said there, like, you manage talent. So one of the branches, you're managing the actual talent. Other side of it is managing the wealth of these players, because like a lot of them will have the same lifestyle. They'll come from the same kind of mindset about money. And, we've seen maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, those players kind of spent all their money, and, now they don't have as much. So, in today's day and age, when people are getting paid 50, whatever thousand, 60, whatever thousand per week, that's a lot of money that can be lost. A lot of people can con them out of their money, all these types of things. So to have that kind of financial advice from the grassroots level, I think that's really, really important. And it's almost like, in school, like they should teach financial education. It's like you're giving that financial education at a grassroots level to athletes and actors and people who have potential for very, very high net worths. So that's amazing. So I want to get into like some like major topics that we've discussed before on the phone, and I've spoken to other people about this interview and they had those same kind of topics, and I mentioned it to you in the email yesterday, and I want to move on to that kind of a little bit later on, but I just want to find out about you, Saad, because like you've told me some crazy stories, and I'd like to kind of touch on those stories as well. But where did you come from? Like, where were you born? Like, you've got this whole group now where you manage wealth, you manage talent. You're working with actors, rappers, footballers. Where did you come from, bro? Like, do you come from some generational wealth? Like Eddie Hearn had Barry Hearn and all that. Like, is there a Barry Wadia somewhere?
I wish. It would have saved me a lot of time. No, but I think I would have missed out the whole journey, right? That's the whole thing. But no, I mean, alhamdulillah, I started off, I was actually born in India, and I came to the UK when I was like 7. And then I grew up towards in East London, in Leytonstone, went to school here, went to college. And I remember, I think when I first went to university, applied for university to study physiotherapy. And that's when it hit me, that's when they said, well, actually, hang on a sec. You're classified as an international student. You can't get the same, fees as everyone else in the UK. So I was like, what do you mean I'm international? I was like, I've grown up here, coming as a 7-year-old, you kind of think, you're just like everyone else. But obviously, I had a bit of a legal issue with the Home Office. My paperwork still weren't completed. And I think they waited until I turned 18. The Home Office, as soon as I turned 18, I had a letter coming through the door saying, oh, you're now an adult. You can go back to India. So I think I had about 2 weeks notice in my family. We were in and out of courts. So from the ages of 18 until 20, I was in and out of the courts, basically fighting for it. And for me, that's when it kind of stopped me from doing everything I was doing. And I think up until 18, I went to the school, college, I went down Epping Forest, and then when I turned 18, they were like, you can just go to India. And I was like, wait, hang on a sec. I came as a child. I know nothing. I know about India just as much as anyone else here,
Yeah.
It's like, and so I was just like, wow, it's like, that's crazy. And at one point I was thinking, wait, what am I going to do if I go to India? Where do I go? It's crazy. But alhamdulillah, look, after 2 years.
You were here for about 11 years. You were here in the UK for about like 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
And then you've kind of just found out, oh, actually, I'm not a citizen or I'm not a resident or whatever. And now they're like checking you out of the country because you're an adult now. That's crazy what you just said, actually. Is like, I don't know where to go into India. Like, where you're going in England, but you're not British. And they're sending you back home where you don't know anything about there.
Pretty much. And I think after 2 years, the judge kind of apologized. Luckily, alhamdulillah, that's when I think everyone kind of flipped over for me, I think, was when the judge apologized to my dad and he said, look, we're sorry. We've ruined the future of your family, especially me being at the key stages of my life in terms of 18, 19, 20, right? So he said we've kind of missed out. He's kind of missed out on those important years. But for me, I look back at that moment and, I'm glad I went through that because that's given me that drive that I'm always banging on about, that's given me that energy that's allowed me to then kind of go into wherever I've gone into.
So you wanted to do physiotherapy when you were going into higher education. So you've always kind of been into sports and football, I guess. I know you play football as well regularly, so you've always been into that, right? So I guess for you were thinking that, okay, I'm going to stay in that kind of world and I like this world. So your thought, I'm guessing, has always been focused on sports. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, ever since I was, I think, 13, 14, if I can remember, I was the only child. So I grew up as the only child. So for me, I was always, kicking the ball around or just out and about or always I've grown up with very close family friends. So I was always at their house or just playing football with them, And then I think in school, I was that guy who used to carry football around and was the guy who used to run out at lunchtime with the football. First one, instead of the bell went, I was the guy who would run out to the pitch and literally get that pitch for the lunchtime for everyone else. And before school, I was always kicking the ball around. After school, I was playing until 3, 4. But one of the things that I look back on is, as my childhood is, I had a very good, disciplined Islamic upbringing. So I was in the Hifz class, and I think it was either just Islamic studies for me and football. So Benjamin Beckham, the really good kid who has to kind of skip out the house. So that was me. I used to wear my jubba, right? And underneath it, I used to have my football kit on. And I used to and then, so that was my 17, 18, 19. And I wasn't the best of footballers. I probably had 2 left feet, I'll be honest with you. But one of my... Huh?
But you just loved it.
Yeah, I just love football. That was my thing. And I grew up, obviously, like I was saying, with Islamic background, so I had no TV in my house. So I remember the Champions League final. My next door neighbor went to Pakistan at the time, and I was like, it's the Champions League final. So I managed to get the big black box from next door, convince my mom to bring inside the house so I can watch the final. So that was the first game I watched on TV, was the Champions League final. Yeah.
Well, the 2005 one?
2005, yeah.
What a game.
And for me...
What a game for you to have watched.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I'm like, oh, thank God I made it. And just about... And I think at that time we used to have this hanger because I couldn't get the satellite or whatever, and I knew nothing about TV, so I had to do that. But I still remember that, and that was the first game I watched. But before that, I would listen to DJ Spoonie, Talksport, 505 on radio. I used to collect Match magazine, football stickers. I saw football stickers in playgrounds, etc. And that was that was just my passion, just football. I don't know, there's something about football which I just loved, and team sport. I liked cricket, don't get me wrong. I played cricket. I was also in the athletics team, etc. But yeah, I was always just very sporty. But I think this is something that we'll discuss later on. But sporty, but not as if the American sports person that you see. The sports teenager you see in America, who's got the muscles, is fit. I was like the skinny, quiet kid who was always sporty.
Yeah.
You see, so then so that was my school days, and in college is when I kind of left my local area,
Yeah.
and I went to Epping Forest in Essex, where I studied sports science, health and fitness, and I was gonna go into physiotherapy. I left GCSEs with like 2 GCSEs. I was born in India. I had a bit of a slight dyslexia, so I just couldn't get what's in my head on paper, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So apparently the system deems me as a failure in that sense. But it's not an issue. But then I went to college, and I ended up getting 360 UCAS points. So I applied for physio. I got in, and then obviously they said I was international student.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like, as enthusiastic as you were, and kind of, you sound like you had like a very kind of happy life and everything, but there were these chips that were building, maybe even subconsciously, things like the hanger, in the TV and stuff like that, And I think, when I was speaking with one of my previous guests, Tony Katus, I think it was episode 20, he was talking very much about that how poverty creates this drive, and without that type of hunger, without that literal hunger, uh, like they say in football and most sports, if you sleep with silk pajamas on or you sleep in silk sheets, then you don't have that same hunger anymore. So, I can kind of see that is kind of in the background of your mind, that, as, in the present, you're very happy, but there's these things that you can see are building up in your mind of like, I wish I could fix that about my life. I wish I could, get to this level, or, so I think, I can kind of see that that's there. And then obviously what happens, when you turn 18 and the judge, or when the country decides that, you're an illegal alien, you go through that process. I don't want to get kind of too caught up in this point, but, just knowing where you are now, those 2 years must have seemed like, I mean, we talk about uncertainty now in 2020, like just touch upon that. Like, what was it like for you at that period of time, those 2 years, and how did that either help you, or were there like things that were detrimental to you, during that period of time? Because I can, that sounds like it could be quite a traumatic experience, not very overtly, but just those anxieties of like, am I still going to be here? Like, where am I going to go next week, or where am I going to live, or what am I going to do in, all these questions. So, what was that
Yeah.
like for you?
No, I think it's only now that I've hit 30, right? When I look back on some of the stuff that I've gone through,
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to understand, because so one thing I never was able to process up until now is, it sounds a bit silly, but I've gone through some crazy stuff, but for me, it never sounded crazy. For me, I was like, okay, that's what it is. But when I look back on it, or if I hear someone else speaking about some tough time they're going through, and I was like, wait, I went through something similar, but I've never kind of had that kind of feeling as if I've just kind of gone on with it and just suck it all in for whatever it was. And then the times passed, and then up until now, when I look back on my childhood, I actually realized where I've actually come from. But one thing, growing up, I was raised by my granddad. So my dad was in the UK. I never saw him until I came here. So I was the first time I actually saw my dad. And I think the way my granddad raised me was, ever since, was I always lived as if we were the richest kid in town. So no matter where we were, the feeling we had inside the house, I was oblivious to everything around me, but the way we would have the conversation, the way we would talk, the way we would behave. And I think Islam kind of set that foundation in for us, that we would only look at people that needed something from us, rather than us looking to go somewhere else. Or, you don't look at too many rich people where you feel like you're missing out on something, or, you're chasing something. It was always, we're just full of contentment. We were just happy, alhamdulillah, for what we had. And we, in fact, we're actually one of the lucky ones. And that's how I kind of live. But now looking back at it, yeah, I mean, it's someone who do like a proper documentary, BBC documentary on it or something, walk down the streets of Malado in Mumbai. They'll be like, this is poverty, but I'll send you pictures of my classroom.
Yeah. Don't do that. I'll put them in here.
Yeah, no, so I mean, for me, looking back at that, I thought that was just normal. I thought that was what everyone's, and then I think now I know what I know. I was like, wow, okay. Then I'm like, okay, so that's what's kind of giving me the drive I needed, because the foundations were so good for me, and I always give it back to my granddad and his teachings, you know, being raised by like a wise man, you know, that's basically what it is. I was getting stories every single day. And I think that's what I was being fed every single day, you know, with my granddad. And I think one thing that my family always had was, from a family point of view, we weren't very cultured because my family was traveling. So not like hippies or anything in terms of like we were moving from, but we moved from very, very small family. And so we never had drama. It could be good or bad, don't get me wrong. And we were just very simple. We lived a very simple life, just religious in that sense, and very plain simple. And I think that's what's kind of given me the kind of foundation. And I think the 2 years when I went through that, I had no idea what was going to happen tomorrow. You know, when I left my local area, the first jump I did, I left my local area school to go to another college. I had to take a train to get out of where I was from, East London. I had to get out, and that's when the first jump I took. And when I took that jump, that was the first time I made a decision of, I was happy with who I was. I wasn't trying to fit in. And I think when I was in school, I was always trying to, as an outsider, I was always seen as an outsider, right? Coming from India, I wasn't a British Asian. I was Indian. That's what, you know, my own Asians would call me freshie, right? That's how it was. And I used to stutter, for example. I could, you know, I still have, I mean, that's something that I've kind of now, it's kind of gone, but I used to stutter. So I was always the quiet kid in a classroom. He was an outsider who's looking at whatever's happening. And I couldn't join conversation sometimes because by the time I would get what I want to say out, it would be too late. The joke's already moved on. So I was always a quiet kid. So that's one I think allowed me to just play football and, you know, just did my own thing. The 2 years at college, I mean, after college, when I couldn't go to university, I'll be honest with you, if it wasn't for football, I have no idea where I'd be. Because what football allowed me to do was, and in those 2 years, I went from playing my local Sunday league team. I used to play football 5 times a week. We used to play Power League. We used to go up and down the country playing in different 5-star tournaments. One of my best mates, he's the most talented guy that I've ever known in terms of football, and everyone knows him in our local area. You know, he would have made it pro. I'm that confident. Just playing with him and just playing football literally every day for 2 years, it kind of kept me disciplined, kept me focused. And I just did volunteering jobs. I got my FA Level 1 coaching badge at that time. I used to go to St. George's Park just to understand football. I wasn't allowed to work or study. So it was 2 years, 18 to 20. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm just waiting before I don't know where I stand. I'm not even allowed to work. You know, I can't do nothing. So I just focused on football and sports. And I used to just go down Mayfair, for example, just walk around. And I was chasing the meaning of what is success, you know, and then so success led me to Mayfair, arguably just simply because of location, wealth. And then when I was there, I started meeting a lot of famous people, and I used to ask, like, how did you get to where you are? Who are you? What'd you do? You know, I just wanted, it wasn't that I wanted what they had, but I just wanted to know the mindset. I just wanted to know, because I was so out of touch with society, because look, the normal system doesn't apply to me. I can't go to university. So I'm literally just floating, playing football, just doing my own thing. So I'm like, okay, when I'm out, and I was asking those hard-hitting questions for myself. I'm like, what is success? What is this? What's what, you know? And I think those 2 years have kind of shaped me in a good way, I think, because those 2 years, it could have gone the other way. But I think looking back on it, that's why I've made a commitment to 100% stick to football.
Wow. So then once you did get your British citizenship, you then went to study sports management or football management specifically, then, didn't you? In a
No. I think the day I got my British passport, the next day I applied for a job, and just happened to be a sales job, the whole pyramid, whatever.
Smashed
but
it.
For me, that was my university. At 21, 22, that was my university. I went down Liverpool Street, proper suited and booted, and I felt like as soon as I walked in there, I was the slowest person to get promoted in sales. It took me 2.5 months because I used to stutter. So for me, it helped me grow. Personally, it helped me grow as a person. Because I used to stutter, me knocking on doors, I would just freeze. Couldn't even say hi to anyone. But there's I was there for literally 12 months, exactly 12 months. And then I just walked out of the company, and they're like, what are you doing? You know, but it was because for me, the 12 months I was there, I was progressing every day, my personal development. I was learning how to basically talk to people, travel up and down the country, talk to people in different neighborhoods. I've knocked on doors in Stonebridge Park back in the days. That's where you know, it was known. You know, I've also knocked to Richard Branson on Holland Park, for example.
Wow.
I've traveled way out to Whitby, Manchester, Sheffield, Bolton, and that, do you know what? That allowed me to meet a lot of people across the country, and just to have, forget the sales, just having conversations with them, I got to learn a lot about people. And so I think within that space, that's the 1 year I stopped playing football, because now I was doing this full time, right? Sales. And then we did business to business sales. And then one day I walked into the Charlton Athletic training ground that was on the territory. I saw the green grass there, and I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna do sales in football. I'm done with sales, you know, because I've been away from football for about a year now.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I saw that grass, I was like, this is it. I saw Chris Bow at the time. He was a Charlton Athletic manager. He bought like a raffle ticket I sold to him. And then I said, you know what, I'm just going to do sales in football, and whatever I need to do, I'm going to look into it. And then obviously I quit my job after 12 months. And then I was like, okay, what do I need to do? I need to learn about the industry. I need to learn about the game. I didn't go to university when I was 19. So I started looking at, how do you learn about football? Is there such a thing, you know, or how do you learn about, you know? And then there was a degree at the time at university. I applied for it, and then I got a scholarship there, because what I had already done was I had already set up a company, and whatever I was doing at the time, my company wasn't selling anything. It was just a registered company. That whatever I was doing, I was just putting all that into it. So I started going to FA Level 1 coaching classes. I used to just volunteer at, you know, I mean, I was volunteering in my Sunday League club. So I was always in and around the football industry, just networking as an outsider, just trying to get in. During that time, I was volunteering for the British Asian Trust. So 3 royal dinners I went to, and just understanding how people in certain wealth, how they move, how they talk. I was just like, it sounds so simple, but I'm just watching how rich people move, how successful people move, how does, you know, how they talk, just airdropping in conversations with my, you know, and I'm just volunteering. I got my black suit on, standard, ushering guests around, whatever. So that was one thing. And then there was Asian awards and all of these awards. I used to just gate crash them. When I first started, I just literally walked into a red carpet event. But obviously I would always go there prepared. So I got that confidence on myself, because I had to do business to business. And we used to walk into like these buildings, and we used to start selling from top down. So you get chucked out the first floor, you go down to the bottom floor, you get chucked out that floor, you go down. So you learn all of that, right? So the raw sales technique allowed me to kind of not be afraid of reaching out to anyone or anything. And I think, again, I'll put it down to my Islamic background. Because I was naive, I think, when I was young. Looking back on it, I'm like, I was very naive in terms of some of the things I did. I never had any of those, how do you say it? Any barriers or anything on my shoulders. So like one thing I realized, with a lot of my British Asian friends, you know, when they've grown up culturally, you've already got a lot of the stories that you've already been told. Oh, you can't go there. This is not possible. You can't. Whereas me, coming as an outsider, I'm just floating around without any of those things on my. So I'm just turning up to Mayfair. I'm just turning up way outside of my comfort zone, and that allowed me to then network. That allowed me to. I remember PFA awards. I found out when the PFA awards were. So I went outside the Grosvenor House Square. The players were all outside. Met a lot of the players. Met Joel Carter. I remember the time. Carlton Cole. A lot of the players. Just spoke to them. How'd you get into football? What'd you do? How can I help you? Is there anything I can do? And all of these experiences under my company at the time was basically just knowledge that I was taking in. So in a more professional manner, you know, in the professional terminology would be, you was doing market research. You know, that's you would put it down to. So alhamdulillah, like for me, and I used to just enjoy it. I used to love it. I just loved meeting people. I just loved, and as a football fan, the first ever football that I met was Jose Antonio Reyes, Arsenal player.
Sick, yeah.
And I saw him at Oxford Circus. He was going shopping, Nighttown. Followed him up the escalators. When I went to the top, obviously we didn't have photos back then and camera phones, right? So I got the little yellow sticky note, got his autograph, still got it. And I remember just asking him a few questions, and I think last year or the year before, I think when Liverpool were in the Champions League final, Liverpool against Atletico Madrid, AJ was fighting the same night.
Mm.
I got the news, obviously, he had a car crash and he passed away. And that hit me hard. That hit me hard because at the back of my head, I always thought, inshallah, one day I'll sit down with him and tell him, look, I'm in sports now. Or I'm sure we'll cross paths. Like, I remember, man, he was my first ever footballer I met. And here we are. But yeah, I mean, that's never going to happen. But it just hits you, right? But yeah, that's how I got into football. Just started heavily networking, learning about the game, got a scholarship at university. And I think, that was at Wembley Stadium.
I think it's you know, like, because obviously if you know, without really knowing that and hearing that, like, it's very easy for people to just, like, you know, like, and I'm sure you've come across this as well, especially, you know, in our culture and our background, we're very quick to just make an assumption about how someone's got to where they've got to. And usually it's like, if they're rich, they're a drug dealer. And if they're like in some like amazing position, or their dad is someone, you know, that got them in there. Right. And that's why it's important to kind of know the kind of background, you know, because, you know, what you guys are doing at Avalon, you know, as a British Muslim, it's amazing to see, because we don't see many British Asians at all, or Asians in general, really represented in sports. So to see yourself in a position of, you know, a behind the scenes position where you can now help people, like Avalon in itself sounds like a bit of a platform where people, you know, the right talent can get, you know, seen and noticed by the right people. So it's good that, you know, there's a person who, you know, looks like you, that is in the position that you're in. And the other thing that's really important for people to kind of understand, and what I got from what you're saying as well, is that that's your passion and you were always there. Like, it's not like you were on the sideline and just thinking, oh, I really want to do football. Like, you were thinking it, but you were on the pitches. You know, you were talking to the players. You were around. So it's like you had that vision of, like, okay, I want to get into this. How do I do that? But rather than just sitting on your couch at home thinking about it, like, you were proactive in it, and you were humble enough to be in, you know, quote unquote lower positions compared to, you know, you were a volunteer rather than the person there. But like you said, it's just to kind of pick up on those habits and those traits that successful people have. And, you know, I smiled when you were saying that, because it's completely true. Classes and status and all these things are only a representation of your mindset. Like, if you're in a high, you know, quote unquote high class, it's because you think a certain way. You know, if you're a middle class person, it means that you're a hard worker. You'll do the work. You might not necessarily think about delegating, but somebody who's, you know, in a high position, a diplomat or whatever it might be, right? A business owner, entrepreneur, their mindset is to delegate. So that's like one small example of how how a person gets to that level, just based on their thinking, rather than, you know, anything else. So I think that's really important to know from you, is that, you know, you are actually actively pursuing the thing. And this isn't an overnight thing. From what you're saying, it's like a 10, 15, 20-year journey in different ways, shapes or form. Different pieces of that puzzle were added to it. So I just wanted to stress upon that fact that, you know, it was active, and you know, you were in that environment to actually be in a position to get lucky or to get the right information, you know, whatever it was. So you obviously studied, and you know, I know we're kind of not ending. We don't have an end point right now, but just in terms of the context of where we want to go, I just want to kind of skim over the your actual education. Although I know it's so important because it's the way you met your partners. So that's obviously like a very integral point in your life. But what I want to do is I want to give people now just a bit of an understanding, and for myself as well, a bit of an understanding now as to, okay, you're Saad, you've done all these things, you know, you've been in all these places. Now you're in a place where you're actually studying, you know, sports management and football management, and you're literally studying the thing that you want to be doing now. You graduated, and I don't know if you started the company during that or after it, but really, bro, how did you start what you're doing now, and how did you, you know, even get in a position to, you know, get a phone call back from Ian Rush, let alone, you know, end up working with him for, you know, however long you have done so far? You know, how does someone get themselves in that position?
Yeah. So I think whilst we were at university, again, it was just pure passion, pure passion. I remember I spoke to the person who gave me the scholarship, and she was like, "Oh, you should apply for a SU president." Now, see, I don't know about the whole school system or how it works or student union, nothing. I'm like, what's the SU president? She's like, basically, whatever you're saying, just say that, and it'll work. I'm like, okay, fine. Because she basically asked me, like, why do you want to study this? What's your goals, whatever? And I would just like, I remember, same thing. I applied for a Calvin Klein job on Regent Street when I was as a part-time sales, whatever, right? Looking back on it now, the way I think the interview I gave there was as if I was applying to take over Calvin Klein as a business. Like I kind of went full in. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I want to change. All they were looking for, someone's going to turn up for 4-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So it was just so I was very naive and just honest, 100% honest, just straight up with what I was kind of looking at. Same thing with the football industry. So when I then became the SU president of my university, that was the first ever year we had a degree at Wembley Stadium, and then from there, my networking now in football business just went up a notch, another aggressive. Just literally wherever I could find football, I'll just go. And then I think one of my mates used to work for the FA in IT department. He used to get access to the changing room. He met the Dallas Cowboy players, NFL players, and he was like pitch side. So I was like, wait, how are you getting access? How are you getting so close to the pitch? I don't get it. And for someone who's never played football at professional level on the pitch, I wanted to kind of see and understand the game from a touchline. It's just a different game from what we're used to. Don't get me wrong, I played Sunday league football. We ended up playing in a few stadiums, all of that stuff. But professional, it's a different game. He goes inside, I'm just in basic first line IT, So I said, okay, cool. I sat down with him, learned whatever I had to do in IT for like 2-3 days, went on YouTube, he went through everything. And then I applied for the IT job, and then I got it. So and then I started working at IT for the FA. And then for 3 years, I was looking after all the journalists that come into the press section at Wembley Stadium and all the photographers who are in and around the pitch. And I would just be walking around pitchside, watching the game as if I'm playing right back to left back. And it's just incredible. You get to understand the pace of the game. You get to understand the intensity, and that allowed me to get a better understanding of the game. And then I think at one point, I started looking at different things I can add value to the sports industry. What can I do to add value to the sports industry? Now, social media was kicking off at the time. So I recorded on my Snapchat a video of when there was a bomb that went off at the stadium that France were playing in. The next game, it was England against France at Wembley Stadium. So when the France and England team are coming out, I basically recorded on my Snapchat. I got like 5 million views on London Stories. It got picked up. So I was like, okay. And I was always very engaging on my social media not because I was showing off or anything, because I was just celebrating who I am. And I'm very visual. I'm extremely visual. And I think I learned that in my second year at university because I was doing all my university degree, work, everything, and I'm just not getting the results. And I'm like, what on earth is going on? I applied, I got myself tested for dyslexia. The guy came in, tested me, and then he goes, yeah, you're slightly borderline, etc. Gave me a certificate for it. So I'm like, okay, now at least I know where I stand. And then alhamdulillah, I managed to get my degree and got a 2-1 in football. But the first year, I was like, how are these 18-year-olds getting better marks than me and they haven't even been in the industry? I've been running around the industry for 3-4 years. And they basically just putting down on paper what the lecture's telling them. Yeah. And I was like, I'm giving you proper insights and solutions to the industry from what I've seen that some of the lecturers haven't even been in the industry. And I'm not getting the marks because I wasn't wording it right or whatever. Anyways, so that was my first. So I wasn't like this intellectual guy in terms of from pro academics. No, I've always been proper street style. Mumbai, hustlers. That's what we are. So I've always had that trait. And my reading and writing was always slower than the average. I used to never read books. Only when I was a kid, probably just hadith. And all of my upbringing, I speak Urdu at home, not even Gujarati. We speak Urdu at home. So even when we was talking Islamic studies locally in English, I still find it hard to because the way I've been raised with Urdu, the Islamic stuff, is very hard for me. But alhamdulillah, now obviously, so whatever my weaknesses were during that time, I kind of flipped it. So now people look at me as, oh, you must be that pure academic guy. You're that with the glasses. I'm like, no, actually, you'd be surprised. You've got better foundation of English than what I had when I first started. But anyways, so that was all of that. So I think then I met my business partner. Now, this is quite interesting. And I think what I was really keen on was he's come from a wealthy background. He's grown up in a diamond industry. I mean, one of the diamond guys who's got arrested right now for the £1 billion fraud in India, Nirav Modi, that's his next door neighbor. So that's the kind of, so, but one thing that connected me with Raj was always hungry. So this is someone, again, who's got everything. He doesn't have to do sports. I'm like, why are you doing sports? You should be in diamonds. What are you doing? But this guy was hardworking. And I think what connected both of us was we had a passion for sport. And there was a trade-off here, which was my values and everything I've been taught about money, and his is totally different. And I think me learning that from him in terms of what is money. For me, money, like, honestly, is just a number. It means nothing. Like, I'll be very honest with you. I just don't have that. I just don't have the goals. I'll be very honest with you. I just don't. There's other things I want to do. There's other things that really excite me, and I'm really passionate about those things. So I've got to understand how wealthy people deal with money, how they live, how their societies, how they got a support network. But with Raj, it was like, this guy was hustling just like me. And I was like, man, that's just, do you know what I mean? So that's what really kind of connected us. And he's from Mumbai as well. And we're the same passion for Indian football. Oh, and I think you had someone from Krepatek on here, I believe.
That's right. Yeah.
So Riz. So Riz was one of the first people, whilst we were at university, we did a deal for Krepatek. We took them to India. We did a sponsorship deal for them. Again, just connecting people. We took them to India. At the time, I told them the urban scene in India is going to be popping off. They're going to have the youngest population, etc. And they're going to get into rap. They're going to get into MBA, which is all what you're seeing right now. So I told this about 5 years ago. I told him, well, that's where I think the markets are going. Krepatek, urban shoe spray company, you know, that's a new market you could definitely explore. So I got them to sponsor a football club in India, Chennai FC. Sick. The owner, Abhishek Bachchan, he's the one who's got the biggest pull, not the club, because football is obviously new in India. But anyways, so we got Abhishek to do a video. I went out to Italy to do a filming with John and Arisa at the time. We ended up, so we ended up being filming with him, and that was one of the things that we did for Krepatek. And again, it was just connecting brands in sports and all of these various case studies we had. I met Michael Essien at Wembley Stadium. So I always kept in touch with a reporter from BN Sports, Ibrahim Kadra, and then he basically goes to me one day, so I need a legend for NBC Pro Sports Studios. They're playing a game in Fulham for Al Ahly against Al Hilal. And I was like, okay, cool. I've got my bib on the IT stuff, right? So I was working as an IT guy within Wembley, but I was heavily networking with all the journalists. I was building my contact books up. Wow. And so I'm running around as a CEO of a company or as a startup, and whatever I was doing these deals, but then I'm still fixing and taking out all the wires after the game, just de-rigging the whole stadium with this bib on for like £10 an hour. But then at the same time, I've just had 12-hour shift at Wembley Stadium on a match day where I've now put my face in front of Manish Bhasin, put my face in front of Alan Shearer, put my face in front of Dave Chauhan and these guys, and I think Harry went, you name it, who's who, they're coming in and out. And then I got him, I can try and get you someone. And one of the things he said to me was, okay, we're looking for either a Premiership footballer currently playing. We went from, so let me phone a few people up. I started phoning a few people. Do you know anyone who knows footballers? This is, obviously, in the end, we narrowed it down to, I think, the last night. The last night was basically within 24 hours. Liverpool just played Barcelona at Wembley Stadium. We won 4-0. I remember that preseason game. And then I think at the stadium, he asked me, do you know any football players? I was like, let me find out. Went out to a few people. And then I think at 12 o'clock at night, Michael Essien sends me, someone else who knows Michael Essien sends me his passport details. Is it Makaleli? Yeah, he was in France waiting to jump just jump on a train. He said he would do it. And then the NBC Pro, they gave us a budget. And then the next morning, they just went with Michael Essien. And then I go to Michael. Have you ever done punditry before? And he goes, no, it's my first time. So I was like, okay, interesting. And then we got to the studios. I've never met Michael Essien before. I got to the studios. The TV guy's there. Michael Essien's there. I'm like, look, just so. And then we got paid for it. And I just remember supplying NBC Pro Sport, a legend like Michael Essien, and in the studios. And he just getting translation because it's in Arabic.
Okay.
It's crazy. But that's how one of the first deals was done. You know, it's just small things like that.
Wow, yeah.
And then wherever you have the convention for the Sports Stuff Soccer X, I even work for them. I volunteered for I even set the men's fashion magazine whilst I was at uni. So I was looking at the sports industry, but not sports, but as entertainment. It comes under IMG and CAA, all of that, right? So I looked at the entertainment industry, and then my focus was sports. But I think we touched upon this before. The only reason I would have such a drive, or the only reason why I've done all of this stuff, is because it wasn't for the money side of things. It's just because I'm just passionate about football. I'm passionate about sport. And why am I passionate about football or sport is because it allows me to kind of use it as a vehicle, right? Football and sports for me allows, it's my vehicle, it's my tool. So I think some of the things that we've done recently, taking Ian to Pakistan, the whole delegation, etc., philanthropy, all of that stuff. That's one of the reasons why I'm in sports. That's one of the reasons why I do what I do. If it wasn't for that, if it was just for football itself, I would have been out of the game a long time ago, because no one's going to be waiting around at 2:00 at night for an email. You'll be like, whoa, this doesn't make sense. Why do I need to hang around? I don't get nothing from this. I'm not getting paid for none of this stuff. I think for 2 years after uni, when I left Avalon Sports, we weren't getting paid. We weren't getting paid. We weren't receiving, if anything, every time we had opportunities, it was an opportunity for us to grow our reputation in the game or to learn something. We weren't actually getting paid for anything in that sense. So I don't even know how I survived those 2 years. I worked at Gap part-time, folding clothes, but I never kind of looked at my bank balance. I've never looked at it in that sense. If it's there and I need it, cool. But now I think, alhamdulillah, now I'm in a position now, we're obviously talking a different game. But just to start with Ian, Raj met Ian in India, in ISL, Indian Super League. He gave medicine to Ian at the time. And he snuck in to the VIP area himself at that time. So he snuck in to the VIP area. Somehow, Raj. Yeah, Raj. So Carol wanted Ian's partner. She wanted some medicine for Ian. He wasn't feeling well. Okay. So he snuck in. So Raj went up to the doctor. Said, "Oh, look, Ian wants whatever medicine. Can you get it?" So he went and got Ian and Carol the medicine. And then Ian and Carol, when they came to London, we kept in touch. We used to meet in North London every 3 months, 4 months. Every time they would come here, just catch up. What's happening? Oh. And then I think 2 years later, I'm doing Ian's legal stuff. I'm doing Ian's accounts. I'm doing his social media. Social media was one of the reasons what kind of allowed me to show Ian the value of kind of rebranding him from the 70s, 80s, making him current. We also then got him his new contract with Liverpool Football Club. He's the highest paid ambassador, the only ambassador right now. So it's kind of them building his brand. And I think one of the things that I've kind of learned over the last 5-6 years is, what I specialize in now is I can sit down with an athlete or a talent, and the whole image, branding, right from the start to go, where they need to position themselves. That's my creative bit now that I had in the industry. And that's from spending 10 years in the industry, hanging around with some of the biggest names. We took AJ to Miami, for example, with Latif, having conversation with AJ, his mindset, where he's at, I know how he thinks, having those kind of moments allows me to now, when I'm speaking to a young athlete now, I can guide him. I can tell him straight away. But this is not all from me, as in me as a legend. When I hear stuff from Ian telling me about Kenny Dalglish, Bob Paisley, Gerrard, I was assistant manager with Ian when Liverpool played Rangers with Gerrard Testimonial. I was there with him, and Gerrard's in the same room as me. This is the guy I used to look up to. Yeah. I still do, don't get me wrong. He's my favorite player ever, right? So yeah, I think once you go past that, when you go past that, the whole conversation is just, it's just totally different. The whole ball game is different now, from where we were. So the biggest challenge was, as students, we set up a company and we acted really professional. Even though we were students, once we left university with no income, we actually bought an office in central London opposite Moorgate. We had those spaces center, right? We're in there. And that space wasn't because we wanted to attract a sort of client, or we wanted to let people know, look where we are. It was actually the last 10 years, every single year, every single 6 months was always about us. We were only focused on bettering ourselves. So first time I met a footballer. The second time, I've got a picture with a footballer. The third time, I'm at an event that the footballer's at. The fourth time, I'm actually having a meeting with the footballer. The fifth time, I'm actually doing something for the footballer. The sixth time, I'm actually making money from a deal that I've done with a footballer. To seventh time, I'm actually now managing him. And that's how I've kind of always seen my progression in sports. And then, yeah, I think it's just one step at a time. We've kind of just built our reputation and built our contacts.
That is so sick, bro, honestly, because you know what, like, I think mindset is so important. And some people I find, including myself, that, a lot of the time I have to remind myself, okay, look, focus. And, in the mornings I might listen to, some podcast or something inspirational, just to kind of get that energy and get that in my mind. But it sounds like, I mean, because obviously we're talking, 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago, when, you were just coming out of that court case. So this wasn't at a time where, YouTube was a big thing and you could just go on there and type in Tony Robbins and then you're gassed for the rest of the day, right? So you're going through a lot of these things. And what's really interesting about your story is the fact that you're just very much focused on two things. One is acting as if, like, it sounded like you very much act as if. So you act as if you are already, a CEO of a huge organization with lots of rosters, and not because of anything egotistical. It's almost the opposite. It's because that's just your vision. Like you can see where this path is. And that's because of the journey that you went on. And too many people complain, and like I was saying earlier, but they're on the sidelines. They're not being active with anything. And then they'll just complain and they'll point fingers and they'll hate. And that's how haters are born. And I just really, really want to drive this in because, I don't want to, kind of gas you up, bro. But like, really, bro, it is extremely impressive that, we've got two Asians, one Muslim as well, who are really, really pushing things forward. And like you said, what you offer is very different from what, a lot of other people are offering. And the fact that you do it with, the Islamic values and principles that, about honesty, about trust, about, all these types of things. And also, as my brand is, no risk, no rizq, there's that element of, we have to, there has to be risk involved. How can you achieve things without, trying things new and pushing the boundaries? So, I appreciate you you sharing that element of your story, bro, because yeah, it's really, really important. And the other thing is, it's just so nice to have a conversation and talk about Liverpool in general. But, when you're speaking to someone, you're like, yeah, bro, I was in the room with him. And, and the other thing is, you were also like really kind of looking around like, bro, I'm in the room with Gerrard. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah, that was my, yeah. No, I remember, I think when we went to Glasgow, it was Liverpool, it was Rangers legends against Liverpool legends, and Gerrard played in each half. And I remember walking in there for breakfast, went downstairs, and I had Luis Garcia, Patrick Berger, Smitzer, Dudek, John Aldridge, and we're just having breakfast, and then Gerrard just walks in, just takes my cup. And I was like, that's the first time I met him, by the way. I was like, wait, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I think Gerrard was like, and then they were picking the team, right? And they were like, oh, we've only got X amount of players. Wait, someone gets injured. Obviously, Gerrard's got his mate that he's grown up with, right? So he was like, yeah, I don't mind putting my boot on. Deep down, I was like, I'll wait to just say, yo, I don't mind, mate, put me down. I would have loved to just jumped in. But yeah, no, I think just for me to sometimes even understand that, wait, hang on a sec, I've gone from a Sunday league changing room, so I'm in the changing room with Ian and these boys. For me, that's what gives me more confidence to keep on going. Because I've never kind of looked back on, oh, but that's who I was, this is who I am. I've always been like, I mean, you change and you grow every day, right? I mean, this is what I was doing, right? This, I knew this was going to happen. That's why, you see what I'm trying to say? It's like, there's only two things I control. It's my positive attitude and my work rate. Everything else is what it is. These are only two things I need to work on every day. If I do that, you know, things will happen. You know, and don't get me wrong, I haven't talked about a lot of things that I've gone through. Every time I've actually done some deal. So imagine I would do like a deal where it might just be a good opportunity for me to, you know, do something. What would happen is, usually when we first started off, most of the deals we did, the deal would flop. The deal would always flop. And because you're young, you're still learning, you don't have the right contracts, you know. So imagine you do a partnership at home and you haven't got a contract done. You still, you know, but you do a deal with them because you know him, or, you know, whatever. So you do something, the deal flops. You don't end up with nothing. But whatever did happen in that deal, even a small bit, that's a little bit I'll take forward. I'll just make sure when I do that deal again, that won't happen. It won't happen twice. So, I mean, I don't want to go and disclose some of the information that's happened, but I've done some crazy stuff where we haven't been paid. We haven't done, it's not once, it's happened like 3-4 times. But some of the things we did in part of that deal, some of the things we actually did, that was actually really good. So we just use that as a case study.
So
I would use that as a case study.
Even if
it's not a loss.
No,
so I haven't lost in any way. Yeah. Ideally, yes, I would have loved to have made $5,000 from that. Happy days. You know, and I got case study. But remember, I'm starting a company with nothing. So I would take that case study right now and we move on. We have another case study, And then now it's kind of, alhamdulillah, look, this is what's allowed us to then. And at the same time, you also understand is people have this, the reason why I was actually interested in doing this podcast was actually to a lot of the young people now. When I was 20, I had a 10-year vision, I had a 10-year plan, and which was, well, I had 15 years to be fair. When I was 20, I said, I'm going to say yes to every opportunity up until 25. So every volunteering. So would you do this? Yes. Would you do this? Yes. Would you? Yes. Would you go to the other side of London to pick? Yeah, I'll do it. Regardless of anything, I'll bite my tongue. Yeah. So what happened was, when you shift from 20 to 25, my 25 was, I'm going to say yes to everything, but I'm going to start putting the foundations down to set up the companies. So from 20 to 25, I was saying yes. So the people I was around, they were like, okay, so we know this guy, he'll just say yes to everything. Okay, cool. So I'm now transitioning from yes to that other guy at 25. Now at 25, I'm now asking him, I'm questioning him. They don't like it because they've always been used to me saying yes. So the growth level, I'm always looking to grow. So they're very static with where they're at. So they just think I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. But obviously when you try and outgrow someone, they will grab you and push you down, or they'll try and manipulate you, whatever it is. But so I had to fight those battles where I knew the circles I was in, every time I was growing, I had to be self-conscious of where I was and who I was outgrowing. So when you're having too much success, you need to kind of maintain that and make sure people around you are not too manipulative or whatever. So you have to kind of let go. So there's a lot of people I've met. I don't have anything bad against anyone. You know, no matter what they've done to me, I just remember the good times. I remember amazing things that I've gone through. But every time you're growing, you have to keep moving forward. It was always, so every time I would go through that transition period, there was always like a bit of pain, or there's something that you had to fight through in order for you to go to another level. Yeah, you know, if you're clocking levels, you know. So for someone like me, you know, so I think at 30, I think alhamdulillah now I'm in a position where I said I wanted to be in. So now 30 to 35, when I said I wanted to have companies set up, structure set up, where I can now start doing business. And don't get me wrong, I'm way ahead of my schedule. For me to even have an LFC player at Liverpool at 30, I thought I would have got it at 35 once I've completed that 15-year plan. To be writing the next chapter for Ian Rush, his next book coming out. I'm literally scripting everything that's happening with the day-to-day lifestyle. one of the chapters is going to have Ian Rush going to Pakistan. You know, that was all done through everything that we've done. So to be in that position where I can now use an influence and the power from sports for good, you know, that's basically why I'm going to football. And if it goes back to the Islamic upbringing. So 20, 25, yes to everything. 25 to 30, start getting a bit smart, start being a bit more streetwise, start questioning people, not giving away freebies. 25 to 30 to 35, that's when you start running your businesses. But again, that's my journey. Everyone has their own journey. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I'm just sharing what I did and how I got there. And the one thing you could try and translate into what's happening with all the lot of younger people now. They want everything like today, tomorrow. They just want it ASAP. You know, I'll guarantee you right now, whatever industry you're in, if you spend good 10 years on your own self-development in that industry, I'll guarantee you this, 100%. You would be at the highest level. You bang out 10 years in cricket, I wouldn't be surprised if you're hanging around some of the biggest guys in cricket. I don't know. I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to be the next Kevin Peterson, but if you're not the Kevin Peterson, you probably be managing Kevin Peterson, or you might be coaching Kevin Peterson, or you might be his physio, or you'll be at the highest level in your game.
Do you know what? It's almost like, you know, football managers, not many of them have come from like elite level footballing. You know, most of them came from like a Division 1 team in whatever league they were in. And it's almost like similar to yourself, like they were just kind of hanging around. You know, they weren't the best, but they just loved it. So they were just hanging around, learning everything. And now they're in a position where they can see things and be like, oh, you know what, if they went there and they went there and they did this and we tried this out, you know, they have a more analytical mind because they weren't necessarily, you know, the best player, but they were there all the time watching and learning. And now they can kind of use that knowledge and that experience to, you know, spread to a whole club. So that's cool. And look, I know we're kind of running over a little bit, but there's a really big topic that I just want to dive straight into, and we've touched upon it now as well. So you obviously want to, you know, with what you're doing with Avalon, like we said earlier, like it's a platform for, you know, other talent in essence to get an opportunity, and then once, you know, if they've grabbed the opportunity, then you can guide them through their careers as well. One of the things that we don't see very often now, alhamdulillah, you know, we've got Mohamed Salah, we've got Sadio Mane, you know, we've got Gerrard and Shaqiri. I mean, you know, Liverpool, mashallah, the dawah is strong, right? But when it comes to football in general, there's very few. I mean, I can only name a couple off the top of my head, like maybe one like Zesh Rehman. You know, even that, Zesh Rehman, why am I calling him Zesh Rehman? His name is Zeshan Rahman, you know? And, you know, he's in coaching now, but like there's no one else who's there, right? There's no one else who's there. And there's two sides to this coin. One is, you know, everyone's racist, and the other is, you know, my mom and dad won't let me play football, right? So there's these kind of issues that are kind of historical for people, you know, coming from our background and culture. I think nowadays things should be better because those kids are now parents. You know, the kids that didn't get an opportunity are now parents, and hopefully they're allowing their kids to get that opportunity as well. But, you know, where do you see things? You know, where are things now when it comes to, like, you know, British Pakistanis or Indians or Sri Lankans in football, like subcontinental representations or any kind of, you know, like British Arab or, you know, whatever it might be, like, where is that representation? And what are the issues? Why are they not getting in? Is alcohol like a big thing?
No. So I mean, I think what you've asked is right now trending. I think the Asians in football. I was actually on Sky Sports the other day because I was actually on Sky Sports for not having a go at the Asians, but I was just questioning the Asians for the way we actually responded to what the FA chairman said, which, by the way, was very disappointing. Don't get me wrong. And I think the narrative is there is lack of Asians. The narrative is it's racism. The narrative is what we've just, you know, what you just discussed. But surely the narrative has to change somewhere, somehow, right? And I think we've been talking about this for so long now that regardless of what's happening in the industry, we just start with that same narrative. And I think it's also right now in the sports industry, because I can see it, I can tell you, you know, things are changing. progressing, and that same narrative which was there years ago is not the same anymore. And I think the older generation, they had a lot tougher than what we've got now. And there's two things that I want to say. One, I want to start reversing that conversation that there's lack of Asians. I think the Asians who have turned up and who have got lucky, they've actually made it. And we just are celebrating those Asians, first of all. So Yan Danda at Swansea, professional football player. Some people turn around and say, oh, he hasn't won Champions League. He's not a regular. He's a professional football player. He's a professional. For me, he's made it. Hamza Chowdhury, Leicester City. Oh, but he doesn't look like a typical Asian. No, you be honest. I'll be surprised with you. This is the Asian mentality. Oh, he's not exactly Asian, is he? Let's be honest. If you actually read up his story, it's phenomenal. The guy used to go to madrasa classes, like, you know, and he had the same cultural upbringings, you know. He's an Asian footballer for me. He's made it. Sarpreet Singh was for me the biggest one. For coming on for Coutinho. Coutinho, come on. An Asian guy who's got the same skin color and whatever, same physically built as me, coming on for Coutinho, right? Now, yes, there is a challenge in terms of there's a lack of him, there's not enough. But then you also have to be very honest with yourself. Look, we're a minority. So when I walk into a room, for example, whenever I walk into a room, I don't look for people that are like me. If I do, nice, great. If I don't, I'm not like, I don't feel comfortable in here. I don't think that I don't feel as if I belong in here. I don't know if he's got halal food. I don't know if these guys are like, dude, I've walked into somewhere in Whitby. I can't be expecting it is what it is.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
A prayer room for
me,
you as well on the side.
Yeah. So for me, my level of my level of understanding is, look, I walked into a room full of some really cool guys.
Yeah.
People. I want to meet them. I'll share them. And guess what? If they don't know about Islam, I'll tell them about Islam. You know, I want to learn about their upbringings. I want to learn about their religion. I want to learn about how they're having with, you know, their level of banter, whatever it is. So I was never, it was not about what my comfort level is. It was about, you know, I never had that comfort growing up in the UK where I've got my sofa where you're saying everyone kind of sits on. I never had that sofa. So I'm always out. You see, my comfort is me. So I think the only message I could give to anyone is last 10 years have always just been about me and my own self-development. That's basically what my focus has been, my own self-development. So when I walk into a room and there's people that are different to me, I'm okay with it. I don't expect them to, and I'll tell you what, 9 out of 10 times, I've never had an issue where they've actually gone out their way to help accommodate whatever I wanted. They would actually tell me, oh, are you sure you want halal food? I'm like, no, I'm cool. I don't mind having these vegetarian stuff. I couldn't care if I don't have meat right now. I'm happy. Like, I'm cool, man. Like, I'm not that fussy in terms of food anyway. But just, you know, but then we'll be like, oh yes, I went to this place for work way outside of London. They didn't have no halal food. I struggled. They didn't have a prayer mat. Do you know what I mean? So, and what I'm trying to say, look, we need to be realistic in the kind of look at the country we're in. We're ethnic minority. I may say this because I'm born in India. So, you know, maybe the way you have British Asians feel, it might be different. But the way I see myself is, I see myself as a traveler in this world. I have no interest in owning things, physically owning my own little comfort zone, sitting on that sofa, sitting in a big house. Even from the company, I take less than £700 a month salary. Whatever we make, I don't take it. I'll just put it in the company. I don't take nothing. Everything that I'm earning probably 3-4 times more than the national average here. But that salary, I split it with my other business partner. It's not between, I don't take it. If I do a deal right now, I could have made 10K, but I don't take that 10K. I'll just take whatever the monthly is and I'll put that back in there. And that's what I'm trying to say. So people are looking for comfort. People are looking for those luxuries. And then we want to be a footballer. This sounds like a little rant here, but I'm just sick and tired. Not because there's lack of Asians. I just think the hunger. Yeah. And the reason why I say this is because if you want to make it at the top of the game in entertainment, there's a different breed that's required, you know. It's not the same. It's not the same as everyone. Because if you look at the stories, how many documentaries have you watched? The stories of super talented, extraordinary individuals that we see right now. at the highest levels in the games. You hear the stories. Kante, where's he from? Maradona, where was he from? Like, you know, even if you look at the British players, where do they come from? So they don't come from a nice, comfortable sofa, you know. So that's the reality of it. Okay, there's loads of young Asians who are 100% driven. They're doing this, but guess what? There's also 99 other non-Asians who don't make it. You have to get lucky. This is the industry. I'm sure there's going to be 100 Asians who are in the academy who haven't been able to make it. But we need more Asians turning up in numbers in the academies. I go to the academies, I'll probably see that 5. Now this is very good, by the way. Before you didn't see 1.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing as well. Like when you look at it in terms of percentages, like if you've got 5 out of 100 people there are Asian, what are the odds that any one of them is going to get picked? It's like, it's literally a 1%.
And how many are going to be Asian? And the odd of that kid being Asian, right?
Exactly.
So that's why I want to celebrate the Asians who have actually made it. I'm like, you man, thanks for coming. You're smashing it. You're doing your stuff. And these are the Asians who have jumped off the plane without a parachute. You want to make it at the highest level. You want to start getting 30, 40, 50K a week. You don't get paid 30, 40. You would only get paid 30, 40, 50K a week if you tell someone, I'll jump off a parachute. And the guy will say, yeah, if you do that, I'll pay you that much. Right? Right? No one's going to say to you, I'll give you 30, 40K if you go and work 9 to 5 for me. Because are you crazy? That's your year's salary. So you're going to have to do something extraordinary if you want to be at the highest level. And, you know, the world doesn't give you, it's not there to give you anything. It's there for you to, you have to go and take it. It doesn't owe you nothing. You know, no one owes you nothing as well. You know, I don't care who you are, what you say. I generally couldn't care less. It don't owe you nothing. You're going to have to add value to it. And if you want something, it's there for you to take it. It's actually sitting there saying, bro, do your thing. It's there for you. Whoever turns up will get it. And I think that's what it is. And I think it's just time. It's just time. Asians, I think it's just time. And there's one technical thing that you could look at is Asians have a delayed growth. So by the time some of the kids are 18, 19, 20, that's when they were playing the best football. By that time, the academies already got their players at 15, 16, 14. So that's what the conversation should be when you talk about Asians in football. Why is there lack of, you know, whatever, not racism, you know, let's talk about the technical issues, which are how many Asians turned up in the academies this year? And how many of those who turned up in the academy left at 15, 16 to make sure they had this second option? So it's the culture thing where I've gone into this industry not worrying about the financial security. I've just gone in there, Islamically, I just wanted to be the best and just do what I love. That's it. The whole system of 9 to 5, house, mortgage, all of that. My family have never bought a house in the UK. But dad still pays rent for his whatever. We live as travelers. That's how, you know, so the whole system, I'm not in the system. I'm not in that system. So therefore, I'm just out there in this little space, just doing what I love at my own pace, at my own whatever. Now, obviously, 30 to 35 is a different era. And alhamdulillah, I'm very blessed to be where I am. So then I then want to now give back in terms of through what I've done. And then so the power is to basically build up the high profile. So you make a footballer really high profile, it becomes as powerful as Anthony Joshua, or his brand becomes that, you know, Ian Rush. You then use that power for good. And I think that's the whole 360 of my journey in sports. And I think that's what I'll always continue to do. And that's what gets me excited. That's what gets me, you know, pumped up. The other business stuff I have to do, that's just part of it. That's just, I hate doing all the other stuff. But that's what it is. So I think it's just a different mindset. If you're an Asian, you want to make it in football, yo man, I'm going to be brutally honest with these people. Jump off the plane without a parachute and learn how to fly. Or survive if you can. And they're the ones who get paid $250 a week, $200 a week. You know, it's a tough industry. Tough industry. There's hundreds of Asians who play football in Sunday League. Hundreds. But there's millions of people around the world who have ideas.
Yeah.
You see?
Exactly.
So, look, I'm not trying to put Asians down here. if anything. The reason I'm having this run is because I'm really angry, because I want us to be celebrating right now, because there's a 14-year-old, 12-year-old Asian who wasn't born when we were. He's looking at, let me type in, oh, why is there no Asians in football? Let me check it out. Oh, there's racism. So we've already put that on his shoulder before he's even attempted to do it. So I want to free that up from as many as I can. That's basically it, you know. And think about it. I think you had a Asian boxer the other day.
Hamza Shiraz.
I think, yeah. So I think you're starting to see so many Asian boxers.
Yeah. And I was going to say as well, Hamza Shiraz is a great example, actually, of it when there is a Asian athlete, the way that you can just get like your own people behind that person is incredible. Like, he signed to Frank Warren, and you know, his crowds are almost like, you know, hundreds of people are coming to his fights, you know, as someone without even a belt, you know what I mean? So now he's kind of growing, and that following is only growing. So for the sport, for everything, it's better. So I think that, you know, like it's like Salah and Mane, like we celebrate these players so much, and you speak to any Muslim, even if they support United, they'll still begrudgingly say like, yeah, Salah's sick, like fair enough, innit? Like, you know, he does. And they're unashamedly Muslim as well. They're not overtly Muslim. They're not walking around giving dawah and wearing a thobe or whatever.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I never give
character.
Yeah, it's your character, and I think that's the best way to do it. So just focus on your craft. You focus on your craft, all of a sudden everything around you starts to take shape. And I think it's a good time to be an Asian in the sports industry, because things are changing, things are happening, and I'm starting to see so many. Like, for me, I feel good. I feel great when I see all these Asian boxers up and coming. You know, Amir Khan did this thing, but Amir Khan had to jump off the bridge or cliff or plane, whatever you say, you know, and then now you got these people. Yes, people, not everyone has the same drive or the same hunger, whatever, but sometimes you need a pathway. And I think I genuinely believe there are opportunities out there for Asians in football, because look, the younger generation, for example, us now, our kids, we're growing up in a different sort of a generation to the ones, you know, ahead of us. And don't get me wrong, I understand the ones ahead of us, it was a tough time. They went through a lot of racism. They went through, don't get me wrong, we're going to go through a lot as well. I'm not saying it's plain sailing, but I think it's nothing compared to what they've gone through.
And I think, like, if like you said, it's almost a good time, because now is a time where if there is any racism, or if there is any whatever isms there are, like, things are being called out now. You know what I mean? Things aren't being like brushed under the carpet. Things are being called out. You can pull out your phone, just make a tweet, and that is enough to make a huge impact and change a whole culture just from a tweet now. So you're right. I think if, you know, I did a podcast the other day, and I asked the guy's an Islamic finance guru, is his company, and I asked him, you know, how do we get normalization of Sharia banking here in the UK? And he said, well, you're never going to have it completely, but ultimately, if you want businesses to adopt your product or whatever you want, like, there has to be a demand for it, and no business is going to turn down demand. Like, if there's 1,000 customers at their door saying we want this product, then, you know, they're probably going to stock it. So I think it's the same way that, you know, we need to turn up if we want to see ourselves represented. You know what I mean? We can't stop our own people, because a lot of people stop their own family, their own kids, their own brothers and sisters, whatever, from moving forward. They're like, oh, leave this to somebody else. But if everyone does that, then no one's going to be there. So I think that's one thing that people need to internalize.
I could sit here right now and talk about the other side. What could the industry do more? But let's be honest. Look, you know, the industry right now, if they could find someone from Africa, you telling me if you was good right now, they'll be like in London. Let's be honest. You know, so I'm talking about at the elite level. So I just think we're there in numbers, but we need to kind of have more numbers kind of really penetrating the sports industry. But yeah, I mean, I just sound like an old Indian right now in terms of just having a proper go at the Indians. First of all,
well, you need to fix it's the opposite thing. Most old Indians would say, "Listen, do your studies." You're saying, "Listen, the studies are great, but like if you want to play football, then you need to turn up to the pitch, mate."
Yeah, just jump off the cliff. Like, if you really want to make it at the highest level, like, commit to it full-heartedly. There is no, oh yeah, start 9 to 5, have a side hustle. If it works out, then you go into it. By the time you works out, you'll be 50. I would have, should have, could have done that. And, you know, life is very short. And if I die tomorrow, I'll be honest with you, I've got enough stories, alhamdulillah. For me, that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in creating these memories, creating an impact, doing something. And of course, for me, alhamdulillah, the way I'm living, it sounds really extreme. It sounds very basic. But I'll be honest with you, that's the kind of zone you need to be in. Because everything I'm saying, every single person who's listening to this probably knows this already. It's nothing new. It's nothing whatever. It's just a case of just putting it into perspective. Just putting it into perspective. And when you just look at black and white, no BS, no drama, no culture, whatever, stuff on your shoulders. Take all of that away. Just look at what it is. Look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Have you done enough? Are you doing enough? Is this, let's be honest, bro, do you really want this? Let's be honest. Or do you like the idea of having it? You want to be a businessman for what business? Like you never talk about your passion. All you talk about is the luxury or the comfort you could live once you make it. Like, is this what I'm trying to say? If that's your goal, fine. Go and get it. But do it with like some passion and do it aggressively, or just, you know. But anyway, can't speak up for people, but yeah, alhamdulillah, that's my journey in sport. I appreciate your time, man.
No worries, bro. Listen, just last question, just before we let you go. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this question, but obviously, you know, you spend a lot of time with Ian Rush, who, like I said at the very beginning of this, is, you know, the all-time highest goal scorer for Liverpool. That doesn't happen by chance. That doesn't happen by luck. And that was in a fierce time in football where, you know, there was no VAR. You know, you can get kicked, punched, elbowed, and if the ref didn't see it, it's all good, right? So it's a very tough game as well. And for him to, you know, score as many goals as he has done is incredible. And you need to have, again, like we've been saying the whole way through this, a specific mindset to allow you to do that. So again, we don't have too much time to go into this. We could probably spend hours just analyzing this. But what would you say are some of the main things that you've learned working with Ian Rush? I can't call him Ian, by the way. I know you call him Ian. I can't call him Ian. It doesn't feel right.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I have to say, like, properly, like Ian Rush, man, like legend.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I still call him Ian Rush. No, don't get me wrong. For me, he's like I've got like a relationship with him now where, you know, I speak to him like literally every night, every day, depending on, you know. I remember when he first got into lockdown, the first one, we were literally speaking for hours every single day when he was in Portugal. I've learned everything. I've learned everything about winning. I've learned everything about resilience. I've learned everything about hard work, being greedy, taking from the table. If you don't, no one's going to give it to you. You know, and you have to I've also learned how to show when you're starting off as a rookie. You need to earn your stripes first. Him walking into the dressing room at Liverpool, he told me stories of what it was like, him with the likes of Kenny Dalglish, Graham Souness, you know, Phil Thompson. He's a skinny 19-year-old kid, you know. It's just, yeah, so I think he's taught me a lot in terms of, and I think one of the things I've actually learned from Ian is, in terms of away from football, is like, these people have traveled a lot around the world. They've met a lot of people. And for me, it fills me with real joy when I see Ian engaging with a fan. I've been to Belgium, I've been to Wales, Scotland, India, Pakistan. He didn't have to go to Pakistan. He had no
You went to Liari
need.
as well, didn't you?
He went to Liari. He had no need, whatever. But he's like, yeah, sure, why not? And I think football allowed him, you know, way beyond, you know, anything could, I think, allow you to get into those kind of pockets. But when he's there, the fact that he's engaging with those kids and putting smiles on their faces, I was like, man, that's what this whole thing is about. And, you know, me being Indian in Pakistan with him, for me, on a personal, was a big deal. And for me to then be able to use sports in a way which I'm able to have an impact in a different part of the world, you know, it's just phenomenal. And I think the more I speak to Ian, the more he tells me about mental toughness. That's what it comes down to. No matter what you do, it's all about mental toughness. You can be the most talented person, but it just comes down to mental toughness. They're the ones who actually go to that extra level. But yeah, look, I'm sure, inshallah, I can speak to you about Ian like all day long, one day on another time.
No,
I've got another literally call at 5:30. I'm going
to. No worries, bro. Look, I'm going to leave you to it.
I can jump back on later if you want. whatever works for you.
No, bro. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for the offer. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to let you go for now, and I'm definitely. There's so much I've learned about you just in this podcast. So there's more things I would love to talk to you about, inshallah. So we'll definitely get another time. Hopefully in person. But yeah, I just really wanted to have this conversation with you, which is why we're doing it on Zoom now. So yeah, bro, I'm gonna leave you to it, and inshallah, thanks so much for your time, and I'll speak to you soon, man. Take care.
Appreciate doing this, bro. I know we said we are gonna do this like time ago, but we made it in the end.
Alhamdulillah, that's the main thing.
Yeah, look, if you need anything, just give me a shout, man. Yeah.
Pleasure, man.
Salam, take care.
Thank you, bro. Take it, bro.
Bye.